All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to talk about Andy Reid's reaction to Patrick Mahomes' no look. I keep saying no look, behind the back pass. Now, I did want to acknowledge some comments from our regular viewer, and that's Anthony Manzano. And he says, as a Dolphins fan, I've always said this. Brian Flores was the right coach at the wrong time. He's the type of first-year coach that you hire when the team has established itself. That is a good point there. And then he also said Flores comes from the Bill Belichick coaching tree. It's very militaristic. He has a very high standard for his coaches, and I think that's what was trying to do in Miami. Yeah, no, I agree. The Dolphins, I mean, he was part of the, tank for Tua stuff. So you did have Ryan Fitzpatrick who was starting there. But, yeah, the Dolphins are a young team and had a young quarterback. And, yeah, maybe in a setting where, like you said, Anthony, that it's a more established team, that style maybe would have been better as opposed to a team that's just trying to get themselves started and establishing themselves. So I do agree with that. But that's, and Brian Flores acknowledged that he's trying to learn from his mistakes. So if he does, in fact, get another opportunity to be head coach, how will he approach things? Is he going to coach different players in different ways? But anyways, let's get back to now the Chiefs. So Patrick Mahomes performed a around the back pass during the preseason game against the Lions. And this is what Andy Reid had to say. He said, I heard he blamed Kelce for the broken play, but that's all right. Does it in practice every day, and I'm all right as long as it's a completion. Listen, they do it in basketball every game, several times in every game. It's not that big of a deal behind the back. I don't think I've seen it before in a game, but I see it every day in practice. Here's my take. Do not perform it in an actual game. I don't care who it is. I don't care that it's Patrick Mahomes doing it. Look, the no-look pass is one thing. I mean, the around the back is, look, I try to do that when I'm playing, water pong, we'll say water pong, and I am terrible at it when I have to do the around the back. I think there was one time I actually did make it in a cup, but I'm terrible with that. I just feel like there's so many things that could go wrong with that. Like, you have to be absolutely sure that you are going to complete this play. Now, Andy Reid said, as long as it's completion, it doesn't matter. But are you really going to attempt that in the game? Now, if the Chiefs are up by, if they're winning like 31-7, and Mahomes wants to do that, now I don't know why you'd want to do that, because you're just showing off at that point. Then by all means, I guess that's when you could do it. But I would say, like, if, and maybe towards the beginning of the game, but like if you're in a tight game and you can't make mistakes here, you shouldn't do that. Now, again, I'm not in the mind of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I don't know what, their thought process is on it. But I'd be like, no. Please do not do that in the game. Because you could have, like a defensive lineman, like, blow up a play, and Mahomes is, trying that out. And, what if it gets picked off or something? Then you got, one of the big defensive linemen running down the field with the ball. I don't know. I feel like the Chiefs, they're going to be smart with it. But, and will it shock me if it is performed in a game? No. Because we see the Chiefs do all these kinds of, ridiculous formations. Like, they had the merry-go-round a couple years ago against the Raiders. They had that formation in the Super Bowl against the Niners the first time, where it was a direct snap, and they spun around. A couple of them spun around If you guys know what I'm talking about, I think it was right before the first Chiefs touchdown in that Super Bowl. Again, that was like, I mean, going on 5 years ago. So, almost. But I look, it's funny, but again, you don't want this negatively impacting your team, and it ends up being a play that costs you a game. Now, I think if that ended up happening, Andy Reid's got to shut it down. Say, no, we're not doing this again. But I don't know. Part of me thinks like the Chiefs will be smart about it, but I don't know. I don't. You don't want to see this being performed in the game. I just don't think it's the right thing to do, because so many things could go wrong. And we last year on offense, the Chiefs struggled. I mean, I go back to that game against the Raiders on Christmas, and that first touchdown that the Raiders had, there was like miscommunication on the handoff, and the Raiders, took that in for a touchdown. I don't know. I just see like a mistake happening if that's performed in a game. Now it's cool because like if he completes that in a regular season game, you're gonna see that all over social media. You're gonna see that, but it just should not be done in an actual game. Preseason's one thing, regular season's another, and definitely don't want to see that in a playoff game. But who am I to say that? Anthony says, I think Patrick Mahomes is probably the only quarterback that can get away with that behind the back pass because of style of football. I agree. And the way he plays the position is sandlot football. Yeah. I mean, look, it's just he makes the game look easy. He does. And that's what makes him the best right now. Especially with the amount of winning that the Chiefs have done in a short period of time. Now, I thought it was interesting because I forget who said it, but I did see a video recently, and it was someone saying that that Patrick Mahomes will never win another Super Bowl. That's it. And I thought to myself, that's ridiculous. Now, you could go back and you can say, well, Tom Brady went 10 years in between, his third Super Bowl and his fourth Super Bowl. You could talk about how Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, they won their Super Bowls, and they're one and only Super Bowls, and they never won anything after that. But I don't know. I mean, I get it because they were saying, well, Travis Kelce is not going to be playing forever. Andy Reid's not going to be his coach forever. At some point, they're going to, leave it. And it's going to be up to him, which I get. But I don't know. I just feel like he could definitely get to 6. He could definitely get to 6. But even if he doesn't, I think he has at least one more Super Bowl that he'll win in his career. I'm not going to say he's not going to win any. Because I just think right now, like, he is well ahead of the rest of the pack. Right now. So I just think he's winning more Super Bowls. Anthony also said in the chat, Patrick Mahomes is starting to get the Aaron Rodgers mentality where he doesn't have the patience to wait for his young receivers to develop because he's in his prime and wants to win one more Super Bowl. I mean, look, he's got a couple of young receivers that he's got to work with. Like Rashee Rice is going into his second year. Although we got to see what happens if he ends up getting suspended. It doesn't look like it with what happened with him this offseason. But also you got Xavier Worthy, who they drafted. And the veteran receiver that they did bring in, Marquise Brown, he's hurt. So Patrick Mahomes is going to have to work with these young receivers that he's got. Xavier Worthy looks like he could be, not the next Tyreek Hill, but, similar style with his speed. We're going to see those explosive plays back in this offense, which we have not seen in quite a while. That's their intention. But I don't think he doesn't have patience. I think he does have the patience. I think Aaron Rodgers, like, if you go back to Aaron Rodgers' last season in Green Bay, well, Aaron Rodgers is in his late 30s. And, there's no more Devontae Adams. You got Christian Watson. You got Romeo Dobbs. You got to get on the same page as them. But you're in your last couple of years in the league. You're on the back nine. Mahomes is still towards the beginning of his career. Well, now he's getting to the middle part of his career. But it's a little bit different. And I don't know. I think Mahomes and Rodgers, I think, different personalities. So I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, obviously, last year, you saw Mahomes and him losing patience on the sidelines with Kadarius Toney. But I don't know. I mean, and Mahomes has 3 Super Bowls. Rodgers only has 1. Which, it's a shame. It's a shame that Rodgers only has 1. Because I think, with the amount of MVPs he's won and just the player that he's been, the fact he's only had 1 Super Bowl is just, it's the same thing with Breeze, too. Those guys both should have won more, but they didn't. And Mahomes has already passed him in Super Bowls. And now he's going for Brady. He's got a long way to go, and he might not ever catch him. Most people are going to say he's not going to catch him, but he's got a chance to. He's got plenty of time left. But look, just continue to do that. Just play the game, as cliche as it sounds, just play the game the right way. You don't have to try out these crazy gadget plays, these flashy plays, trick plays that... Now, obviously, like, there's some that, you can get away with, but I don't know. The behind the back, I just feel like there's so much risk that could go into that. But, it's Patrick Mahomes, so I guess, if it's anybody that's going to do it, it's him. But I don't know. If I was one of the coaches, I'd be like, please do not do that in an actual game. Please do not do that. But I think if it is performed in a game and it gets blown up and something bad happens, like if there's like a return for a pick 6 or something, or if the Chiefs end up losing the game because of it, you will never see it again. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the Chiefs games this year and see if this is actually performed during a game, an actual regular season game. And if it isn't, I guess it was only happening during preseason games and practice. But I won't be surprised if we do see it. I just think don't do it because it's got disaster written all over it, in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think, though, about that. Should Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs perform this in a game, or do you think that they should say, you know what, it's cute, it's funny to do it in the preseason, but yeah, maybe we shouldn't do it in a real game, because it's just, again, there's a risk factor there, and I really don't think they should do that in a real game, because there are so many things that could go wrong, and I just don't think it's worth doing. So that's my opinion on it. Let me know what you guys think, though, about it in the comments. So we are going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we will get back to our receiver rankings, receiver group rankings. So we'll be covering the AFC South, and this one was kind of a tough one to rank, and we'll get into why that is when we come back from our final break of the show. So with that being said, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.